Jurassic Park. Now playing the PS7.
Ecto goggles with Ecto Bomber, neutron blaster, and water zapper, each sold separately.
From the corner penthouse of Spook Central all the way to Star Killer Base, this is Yes Have Some Podcast.
Do I? Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
You know, they told me you people were conceited douchebags.
The only place in the multiverse where you can love the book, hate the movie, but still buy all the toys.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
I'm not looking for a friend. I'm looking for a Jedi Master.
What?
Please remember to hold on to your butts and get ready to get stressed. With your hosts, Craig Goldberg, Abigail Gardner, and Jacob Walsh.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Yes Have Some Podcast. You caught us in the middle of a conversation that I felt needed to be recorded. My name is Craig Goldberg. I'm not even going to do the intros. You know who hosts the show by now.
We don't need intros.
Y'all know me.
But I will ask everybody how they're doing in a moment. But what I'm going to say is, I was talking about this. There's this old. What are you doing?
Just moving my microphone a little bit. It's all good.
There's this old band called Static X. They were like a metal band. That was God, I don't know. They were kind of came up in like the new metal scene right around the time of like Stained and Linkin Park, and they were kind of like
early 2000s.
Early 2000s. And if I remember, Jake, they were more like a third tier. Like they had like maybe one or two big songs, but they weren't huge, right?
They were not very big. They were more of like an industrial. They were like they did come up with the new metal stuff, but it was like a industrial version. You know, they were doing something a little different. The lead singer had that really stupid hair where it was just like straight up in the air.
Right, I remember that. So what reminded me of this is we were just talking about some like old bands like Korn and those kind of bands and who we saw, and I thought about Static X because they had some sort of anniversary tour planned for this year, and I think they maybe did a couple dates before they canceled everything. But what they did was the lead singer's dead. He died a while back, maybe like
Wayne Static.
Yeah, Wayne Static.
Years ago,
like way long time ago. Like you were really loud just now, by the way. Oh. Maybe I'm still trying to adjust the levels. No, I figured it out. Maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, and they got a new singer that apparently sounds like him. And but he wears a Wayne Static mask.
No.
Oh my God, that's the creepiest.
It's like Back to the Future too.
First of all, that's insane. That's something a crazy person does. Second of all, I kind of think a little less of you now for knowing all this.
Right. Right.
In my defense, I knew his name was Wayne Static because of the Wikipedia.
Are you doing some Static X
cosplay
over there?
Research?
I don't understand.
No, but we are playing Tony Hawk, which I think is where all of this is stemming from.
Also, I just realized there's a 80% chance, no, I'm going to say 50% chance that I'm thinking of Drowning Pool this entire time, and it's not Static X.
I gotta look at Drowning Pool.
Which is also a very similar story. They had the one
basically
song.
All the same stuff died along. Drowning Pool did have like two songs that I liked back in the day, back in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They had one where they instructed all the bodies to hit the floor.
Oh, let the bodies hit the floor.
That was Drowning Pool. Yes.
I sing that to my cats, but I say let the buddies hit the floor.
Did you hold on? Yeah, they do the counting, but hold on. Do you guys know this fan? You know how movies have fan theories that aren't real?
That's in The Matrix.
Songs have them too. There is a fan theory that Let the Bodies Hit the Floor and It's Raining Men are about the same event from two different perspectives.
They are, for sure.
I like that.
So, that is kind of...
It's like a different way of looking at things.
It proves that it's all about your personal experience, how you observe something, and what comes out of that from like your artistic integrity. That's what I'm trying to say. Hey, everybody, welcome to Yes Have Some. By the way, another thing that you're both going to hate. I was going to open with this.
It's all new metal now.
We're the new metal Yes Have Some show. We only give new metal and rock and grunge updates, which is exciting.
We're talking about trap saliva.
Oh my God. We have a new segment called Something Takes a Part of Me. And
let me slip on my breakaway pants.
No, I was listening to another podcast. There's more podcasts than just ours. Joe Rogan had David Blaine on, and as I was listening to it, I was like, Jake and Abby would hate this.
I hate that
much.
sentence.
Yeah.
I hate both of those people.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about magic, and at its premise, it's just people. We're paying people to lie to us.
Jake, you don't.
Magicians are all con artists.
Yeah.
That's all they are.
Yeah. And they were talking about like how he like nobody, when he does those stunts where he like freezes himself for like 5 days and everybody thinks because he's a magician. He actually told a funny story where there was somebody in New York. He said it was like 12 degrees. David Blaine said he helped somebody open their car door that was frozen, and he just pulled it really hard and it opened, and they thought because it was David Blaine helping them that it was like a trick.
There was like a magical force at work.
Because they couldn't get their door open, but he's like, I just pulled it really hard. So it's kind of funny. Anyways, everybody, welcome to the show. Jake, welcome back. As I said last week, you were on assignment in Florida.
Yep.
So what's the report? How was Florida?
It was fine. I didn't really do anything. I just hung out with my mom.
Yeah.
It was pretty uneventful. Just hung out, went to the beach, and that's about it, man.
Yeah.
That's nice though.
A couple of days, yeah.
I saw that ocean.
Yeah. You mentioned there was a lighthouse. That seemed fun.
It was a light. Yes, for sure.
I've never been to a top of a lighthouse.
We were in St. Augustine, went to a lighthouse. It was very tall.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
and I don't ever need to go back to the top of that lighthouse.
A lot of climbing.
Hey, you should leave a Yelp review for that lighthouse.
Lighthouse looked small, but it's taller than it looks.
A lot of stats.
Dang.
Oh man. Anyways, well, cool. Well, welcome back. Thanks everybody for joining us. Before we get started, want to let everybody know that Yes Have Some has a YouTube account. We are fastly approaching some number of subscribers. That was an arbitrary goal of mine. So if you could go to the YouTube page and subscribe,
no, it means something.
It means something. We still got a lot of toy content and all sorts of stuff going on over there. And then of course, Yes Have Some on Instagram at YHS Podcast. We've been posting and sharing our collections and our toys. And for some reason, if you don't follow us. Just give it a follow. It's that simple. So we do appreciate everybody's support on social media. Also, we don't talk about it enough, but we have a very cool merchandise store. The Yes Have Some official gift shop, as in slides are available in the gift shop, or
slide on down to the gift shop.
I love that. We won't even go into that, but it's hilarious. We have a brand new shirt, so you can go to belowthecollar.com/YHS podcast. Once again, that's belowthecollar.com/YHS podcast, and get the brand new Jacob Walsh and Linda Blair inspired t-shirt by our friend Brendan Pierce, who did the last Yes Have Some shirt with the big YHS universe with, Jaws and all that stuff on there. He does incredible artwork, and he surprised me. We did not ask for this. He's like, "Hey, look what I made," and we were like, "Cool, new shirt."
Exactly.
But of course, that commemorates one of the great moments in Yes Have Some history, which was it's almost like a 2 or 3 part event. The first part was Jake getting yelled at by Linda Blair at Days of the Dead, and then a year later returning with a vengeance.
Was it a year later, or was it like 2 years?
It might have been 2 years.
I think it was 2. I think she skipped a year.
Yeah. She didn't want to face you.
You know how Linda Blair that skips every,
right?
It's like a leap year thing.
Linda years.
Got it.
Linda Blair's. It's like a hurricane. It's like there's no Linda Blair's predicted for this year.
Exactly. And sometimes you think it's going to be a Linda Blair, and it turns out it's just a dog rescue, and you have to hear about all that.
Get the ring light out.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. I have no concept of time, but it feels like that was all a couple years ago. But we finally have commemorated
it. About 15
years ago.
It looks small, but it's a lot bigger on the inside.
Yes, that's why we lighthouses and Linda Blair.
Either way, the shirt's amazing.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite is that cool. There's in the shirt. Jake is on the shirt. It depicts Jake wearing a Ghostbusters shirt. And the No Ghost logo is wearing sunglasses, and he's pulling them down looking at the Pazuzu statue that Jake is holding.
That's my favorite part.
it's like the Ghostbusters logo from the real Ghostbusters, where it's always in the corner, like reacting to the actual.
Right, yeah. And it makes me want that shirt. When I first saw that, I was like, Jake doesn't have that shirt. I was like, wait a minute, that's not even a real shirt. I just want it. So you can find that now in the official shirt store with all of our shirts at belowthecollar.com/YHS podcast. And we very much appreciate your support. Now,
and creativity, Brendan. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan, very much.
Thank you so much.
So Dragon Con was this past weekend. In theory, it did not happen. Obviously, we all knew that it was going to be canceled, but that did not stop people from doing virtual versions of PKE Surge and panels. And Dragon Con did their best to do have a virtual presence. And,
On Facebook,
you know what? I think maybe because the Dragon Con family is more close knit and passionate than like the traditional Comic Con family. From what I was seeing, it seems like more people were into it than like with San Diego Comic Con. Like it gave people something to do. And
I think that community aspect of it, I think a lot of families who maybe were bored and didn't know what else to do, they gave a lot of stuff for people to participate in on Facebook and challenges each day. I was kind of involved with watching panels and, getting updates on Facebook through Dragon Con.
You were on a panel.
I was on a panel, which aired at Friday at 6 a.m. between 6 and 7. And that's the She-Ra panel that I recorded a few weeks ago. It was a blast to do it. But of course, I totally missed that because that schedule came out on Friday. So it was kind of like a...
when they're doing Dragon Con, they try to keep it, as close to the real thing as possible. So schedule changes and schedule popping out last. That's all.
That's normal.
So they always put the important stuff at 6 a.m. anyway.
Yeah.
Is also the other thing they always do.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of fun to participate and leave comments and at least be in some of the group chats a little bit because you felt kind of a sense of community.
I just realized every year at Dragon Con, I always say I'm going to take advantage of the 24-hour panels and the late night movie festival and all that stuff, and I just never do. I'm always
you always have some sort of big declaration of something you're gonna do.
Get a hot dog.
But it always changes when we get there, and it just becomes I'm gonna get a slice of pizza.
Yep, I can reduce all of my goals in life down. I'll just get a piece of pizza. I'll be fine with that. But no, I did miss Dragon Con, and it was the one thing, there's been a lot of stuff this year that has not happened, but that's the one thing that's our big annual event that we all look forward to, and obviously PKE Surge. But hey, we did a panel. We did a virtual panel that was pre-recorded that aired. I'm going to find out where you can get that. I believe it's on the American Sci-Fi Classics YouTube channel, and I'll try to get the audio up on our actual podcast feed. We did put that up early a couple weeks ago for our Patreon members. But it was fun. We did a Jurassic Park panel.
I was on it.
And Abby was on it. Jake, I completely forgot that this happened. Do you remember 2 years ago we sat in on a Jurassic Park panel and Abby got the stanky boot?
I did forget all about it too until you mentioned it in this week's email. I completely forgot, but yeah, that did happen.
Yeah,
it was quite a memory, honestly. I showed up for the panel the first time to check in. I was wearing my full Zoya the Destroyer costume, which is just a leotard and black lipstick and a headdress and all this shit. So yeah, I showed up. I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna be on the panel. I'll come back in a little bit. Let me change. And I came back with you guys, and we stood up near the front of the room waiting to get on there. And it slowly became evident in the last couple minutes that it was all right, Craig and Jake, take your seats. Looks like we don't have room for Abby, so I sat in the audience. I tried to take pictures, and I got increasingly mad and ended up leaving.
Abby bailed.
I was like, I can't sit and watch them podcast without me.
I offered you my spot, and you were like, you said clearly that's not going to happen.
Jake has a tattoo on his back. I was like, I don't deserve this. You have no idea how much. And then I went and punished myself, and I got lost all over Atlanta trying to find my hotel.
Yeah. Abby acted like she's never been to the city she's lived in her whole life.
Sad Charlie Brown, yeah. Abby.
But that didn't happen.
Just left Dragon Con, just walking down the road.
Literally, I was gone.
Somebody started playing the sad Hulk music from the TV show.
You just hitchhiked.
Yeah, all those flies around me like Linus.
Yeah,
it was so sad.
You stunk for some reason.
I did.
That's funny. But that did not happen this time. We had fun. I love talking about Jurassic Park, and it's such a big franchise with so much going on that you can't even really scratch the surface in an hour. But we had fun. We tried to cover some different topics, and we did some YHS group therapy questions that we answered. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So thanks to Gary and Joe for having us and for having some. Cool. But everybody was posting their PKE surge pictures. I did get that wave of like, ooh, you
get that wave mostly, at least for me, it was the weather walking out, because it's this time of year and the changing of the season. It happens at Dragon Con every year and you kind of miss it. But being out there this past weekend, I was like, oh man, this is Dragon Con season.
Right. I miss it. I miss the Chase and Hal and Katie and all of it in the PKE surge and the Finchers and James Fincher just manning the table, even though we didn't have, just sitting there for like 2 straight days and being happy to do it because he's like giving out business cards.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll build you a proton pack. Like, okay. It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's like we almost forgot how much those memories get you by for the next year till you see everybody, because it's just important to spend time with people.
Next year we'll do it. Next year it'll be good.
Crush it.
We're gonna crush Dragon Con. Oh my god, they're not gonna even see it coming. Cool. And let's see what else. That's all my little housekeeping notes. I don't know if anybody had anything else. Abigail? No.
No.
Well, we hope everybody.
That's it for housekeeping.
Enjoyed their weekend, their long Labor Day weekend, with or without Dragon Con. So in a bummer of news, we're gonna talk about toys here for a few. I believe Toy Fair is not happening. They went ahead and just said we're not doing it. It's special in February. Maybe it'll happen later in the year, some version of it. But that was kind of the one thing I was like, oh, you know what? Next year. This has been a crazy year, but we're going to reset it. We're going to be back at Toy Fair getting ready for Ghostbusters Afterlife. And they were like, no, it's not happening. And obviously, there's no way to know what's going to be happening in the world come February. And that's such a huge undertaking. I understand it, but it definitely stung a little bit.
Yeah, I felt
I just cut to Abby as she's coughing.
Sorry.
Okay.
And no, it's I felt the same. First of all, let me get close to the microphone. It made me kind of sad because I like to think there was kind of that like, oh well, once this year ends, maybe by January 1st, just everything will be better kind of idea. But that's not the case. And now that February's
right.
You thought it was going to be like Y2K, like everything was going to get reset. But it's not. Kind of a bummer.
But that is not stopping us from buying toys, obviously. Hey, Jake, I was at Target today. You knew that because I already told you. But I think I saw all of those new NECA Godzillas, and they have a ton of them.
Well, there's like 4 new ones, basically. There's the two that I ended up picking up like a couple weeks ago that we saw at Toy Fair. And then the newer 2 that are just kind of coming out are just repaints of those. So it's 4 figures total, but 2 of them are the same mold.
Right. And because NECA is not going to have the Godzilla license
this
any longer. This is it. This is the finale.
This is all of it.
But I mean, how are the figures you picked up? Are they pretty great?
Oh, I think they look great. I think they're 2 of it's 2 of my favorite looking Godzilla costumes. One being the Godzilla versus Biollante suit, that's my favorite movie. It's just to me that's when he looks the coolest, and all of NECA's Godzilla figures have been amazing. There's nothing, there's just nothing wrong with them. Right. They just look great, and there's good articulation. Like the best thing about those Godzilla toys is that like the tails are really segmented, and like his tail in the movie looks like that. Like his tail looks segmented, but you can use that for a toy and just make it, where it's just each segment is an articulation, so you can kind of make the tail look however you want it. And I think that's really cool.
Now, I got my first Godzilla figure ever a couple months back, and I don't know which one it is. I think it's the Godzilla vs. Kong figure. I like it with the nuclear. God, I'm not a Godzilla fan at all. What do they call that when he spits fire?
Breath?
Yeah. That.
It's whatever you want to call it, nuclear breath.
Yeah,
or
I displayed it.
Or,
I displayed it with that because I thought it was pretty cool. I like that. Do they all come with that?
They don't all have it, but a good bit of them do.
Gotcha. If you're collecting Godzilla stuff, get out to Target because they've got plenty of it. They seem to have a surplus of it. And it's a bummer they're losing the line. I guess in more not so hot news from NECA, but we won't only focus on the bad. Everybody found out this week, and then NECA officially announced it yesterday that the 8-inch clothed retro style Chief Brody figure is canceled.
Oh,
It is not happening.
what fell through?
Yeah.
It's
Do you think they'll just give me the one that we saw at Toy
the
Fair?
prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe right now would be a nice.
To call dibs.
Here we go. 30 seconds, Jake. It's like a
Say why you need it.
It's like a dating show. Give us your pitch why you deserve the Brody prototype.
Just because I'm the biggest Jaws fan in the world, and you know, I saw it up close, and not a whole lot of people have gotten to do that. And since I already saw it, and I already have
It's like
such a
he
big
knows you.
Jaws collection, it's like, you know, for everybody else, you know, for a very large part of the population, they haven't seen that in person,
Right.
and I have. So to take it away from me, it's like more hurtful.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like those other, like, you know, fuck everybody else. They don't
Right.
know, whatever.
Yeah.
But
I
I've
agree.
seen it. I've had it within my grasp. You know,
I think we should turn that into like a haiku. Like
If you can
A
touch
big
it, you
Jaws-
can catch
yeah.
it.
this is the Jake. We're gonna make
Belongs-
here it
belongs
comes.
to you.
Right. The next shirt will be the Jake Jaws Brody haiku. It'll be
Are you familiar with haiku structure?
no. What is it?
I know
It's
that there is.
3-5-3.
Okay.
You're ruining my joke.
Do it.
It's
Sorry, I
over.
just made it not fun.
Yeah,
Continue.
wait.
Are you familiar with the structure?
Jesus
Sorry,
Christ.
continue.
I was gonna say
575.
575. I was gonna say I saw Brody first. I saw it in person, and fuck everyone else. 575. The Jake Brody haiku.
Pretty cute.
But yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
that
bummer.
was-
But they did officially announce yesterday on Twitter that the Quint is happening. Now, here's my hot take. This is how some people have accused me of being annoyingly optimistic in my life. Like, probably the two people I'm talking to at times have been like, stop
Sure.
being so
Probably the
positive.
most, yeah.
Is it almost better, since we were never going to get Hooper because of Richard Dreyfuss didn't sign off on the likeness rights? Is it almost better to just have Quint than having Quentin Brody and no Hooper?
No.
Okay.
It's all kind of.
Nah. I'm assuming it must be some sort of like, it's weird, you know, they had the rights and then now they don't, but they still have the Quint rights. So I'm imagining it must be something. Maybe it has something to do with their contract or the family, or I don't know. It's probably something weird and technical. And I'm just kind of hoping that maybe down the road it's something they're able to work out. You know, like
Right.
I was never like super bummed about no Hooper, because I just figured, you know what, maybe after Quentin Brody comes out, maybe down the road they'll be able to put the Hooper out. Maybe, you know, they'll be able to ask, you know, Richard Dreyfuss again or something. And I'm just hoping that maybe the Quint comes out, we'll get some other stuff, and maybe whatever is keeping this from happening will maybe get worked out, and maybe it will just be a delayed thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't get into too much detail about it, but I can only imagine that Brody family has been through so much over the years that they can't even be bothered with
Dude,
it.
like 4 shark attacks.
I was about to say
They can't
all the
even go
death.
to the Bahamas, you know?
a lot of trauma.
Yeah. They can't even go on a nice vacation. They can't even hire.
Dude, they won't,
Wait, what were you saying?
just
Did
keep
Ellen
going.
Brody not
you know?
even fall in love?
Can't even get in the pool anymore, you know? After that pool shark incident.
Oh God, yeah. You can't even go
They
to
can't even
SeaWorld.
play pool anymore because of pool sharks.
They can't even hire Michael Caine to fly a seaplane for them anymore without getting attacked by a shark. Listen, we'll get Brody eventually. These things tend to work out over time. They a year ago they said they were never gonna have Friday the 13th figures again. Look, those are happening. So things work out eventually. But they had pre-orders going, so they had to cancel orders. So we hope nobody was affected. Speaking of NECA, I ordered the animated Back to the Future figures from the NECA eBay store, and those are getting delivered like tomorrow, I think.
Nice.
Oh, those are out already?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a nice little like silver lining after some of that
I'm excited about those
depressing
figures.
stuff. Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out if I've been having to try to figure out if like that's a line I'm going to try to collect or not.
All right, give me.
And I'm not
give me your
sure
stress.
because I think I'm probably going to get the other ones, the like the ultimates.
Right.
But I'm like, do I also want that? Probably.
I think the answer
right?
is yes. You could pro and con it, but you're
Well,
gonna
they're cheap.
Well, it bums me out that it's possible we're not getting the car now.
Right. Yeah. But they're cheap. They're only $12 a figure. That's almost like if you
They're
don't.
kind of like the Toonie Terrors.
Yep.
Yeah, they're almost free.
Well,
Definitely get
in
them.
that case, I'm getting two.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah. I mean, they're in that scale, and like the Bill and Ted and the Ace Ventura, like it would be cool to have a whole shelf of those animated figures NECA's doing.
Yeah, they're very cute.
Bill and Ted.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting them. Well, cool. So, let's talk about Ninja Turtles NECA figures real quick, because I had a little bit of stress over the last couple of weeks because they did the big pre-order for the Super Shredder. Jake got one. I got one. Jake, you got yours like a week ago. Mine has been lost in delivery limbo, and I was so stressed, but it finally came yesterday, so we can finally talk about it. I'm going to put this out there. Jake, I know you were a little bit later to the TMNT movie line. I know you recently got the 6-inch movie figures. You had the 1/4 scale. You had the bigger ones, but you never got the smaller ones. But a friend of the podcast was able to send over some of the figures to you that you had not gotten, including the Raphael and Casey Jones 2-pack. So first impressions, man, how are you feeling now that you're fully involved against your own will, seemingly?
A little annoyed. No. First of all, thank you to that dude for sending those out. Yeah, I always just stuck with the 1/4 because I was like, you know what, these are really big and they're really nice looking. I just didn't think that I needed the smaller figures, but then they kept making them, and I watched you collect, and the Splinter came out and the Foot Soldier, and I'm like, oh, those all look cool, but it wasn't ever like a super necessity for me. And then whenever the Raphael Casey Jones 2-pack came out, I was like, oh, I kind of want to look for that. I really like the way Raphael looks with his in disguise. And yeah, and then this dude sent me that package and hooked me up with all 4 turtles and Casey Jones, and then and I knew that I had pre-ordered the Toka and Razar whatever a couple weeks ago. I was like, I knew that I would get the part 2 stuff, because the Toka and the Razar and the Super Shredder, when we saw that stuff at Toy Fair, I was like, these are the best looking things I've ever seen. Like, they just look amazing. So yeah, I've kind of like went from no turtle collection to a turtle collection.
Right. And Token Razar was like an easy, like, of course we're gonna get those because they're incredible and they're big, and like
and it was also easy to get Token Razar because it was one of those like week-long pre-orders,
right. Well, I was talking to Jamil Payne, who's a friend of the podcast, and he lives locally, so we do these weekly like meetups seemingly at Target, where he'll pick up something that I need, I pick up something that he needs, and we'll do these exchanges in the Target parking lot. And we were talking about, since NECA started doing those pre-orders, nobody's complaining. It went from like insane amounts of collectors complaining about not being able to get NECA turtles, and now it's like, oh, cool, we can just pre-order them, and thank you, NECA, for making it easier. And
fixed it.
It's amazing.
Sure.
Nice.
But I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't know if we're gonna do the first ever annual Yes Have Some end of the year toy awards this year.
That's a good idea.
But I'm going to put up that Super Shredder as my first nominee for Toy of the Year, because it is amazing. Like,
it's hot.
And it's one of those things like, yeah, we
package.
saw it at Toy Fair, but like, Jake, you were telling me when you got it the other day, you were like, hey, it's better than you think it is. Like,
especially when you have it next to your other turtles, because it's like, he's much bigger. He's in scale. So Super Shredder's a giant. Because Kevin Nash is a big guy. So
yeah.
When you have it next to your turtles, it's just like, oh, okay. Like when you see he's got these like crazy he's got like a crazy wide-eyed, drugged up stare happening, and it's amazing.
Yeah. It's a good looking figure. It comes with the cool TGRI bottle of ooze. And some
bottle of
ooze, whatever they call it.
It's like an energy drink.
Yeah, 5-hour energy ooze. Yeah, the container of ooze, I should say. And it's a really great figure. It displays well. It's really, really big,
imposing and dominant.
It's about 2 inches taller than all the other Ninja Turtles figures, and
that's what you want.
It's amazing. So congrats to NECA for, again, making me spend more money. And then last week they put on sale the TMNT accessory set as well as the diorama. So that was, again, more money being spent by me on Ninja Turtles. So that is okay, though. I'm not mad about it. I'm a little mad about it, I should say. Stop
and congrats to NECA to being nominated for our first ever Toy Awards 2020.
We should do that. We should send them something. My second nominee will be the Spangler's Neutrino wand.
Oh, I think I might switch those. Yeah, I think that I like.
They're just nominees. There's nothing to switch.
Okay. Well, now I thought we were judging. Now we're not actually.
No, later. End of the year. It's September.
We got a couple months.
We got a couple months.
Not even award season yet. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So very exciting, and like I said, that accessory set's really cool. Abby on our eBay hang. By the way, we got a fuck budget coming up. This is very exciting. We haven't done one in a while.
Yeah.
But I know
big dinner. For everyone.
You picked up some stuff on the eBay hang on Friday night.
Yeah, I did. I am very proud of myself, actually. I spent a decent amount on a nice little barge for myself at the end of our eBay hang.
You don't often barge.
No, it's very rarely. I am prone to, I have an affinity for random crap, which I know I've been called out for. I usually pick up like the little knickknacks and things at a toy show or when I go to a store, the stuff that maybe doesn't catch everyone's eye. I don't tend to get that big play set or the big whatever thing. But when it comes to She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which is my new obsession, it's the cartoon on Netflix.
I step away from the podcast for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I come back, talk about She-Ra.
I have the power. Yeah, I know you did, and it's such a great show. Well, I started watching original She-Ra because of Craig and his interest in Masters of the Universe and He-Man, which I also enjoyed that cartoon. And then She-Ra, when I first watched that, it was like that missing puzzle piece moment in my life. Because
real quick, I'm going to interrupt you.
Mm-hmm.
If 1 year ago somebody gave us a snapshot of
I would have believed them.
September 2020 and was like, look at the world you live in. Everybody's wearing masks. Craig has a He-Man collection. Like it would have been, you'd have been like, no, this is something else.
Bizarro.
It's bizarro.
I would have believed it too, but I said, hey, will you show me 2 months later when Craig has abandoned his He-Man collection for
it's also
some other collection?
For Transformers.
Fuck Transformers. I hate them.
That I might leave if that happens.
My favorite thing about how often Craig says I hate Transformers or fuck Transformers or I will never have a Transformers collection is that one day, it might be years from now, who knows, when Craig does start his Transformers collection, we are going back and we are making like a master cut of every I will never have a Transformers collection.
You should have heard me, dude, the other day.
I know, I was about to bring this up.
I was rationalizing it to Abby the other day. I was like, I was literally...
There's no way.
I was like, I don't like them. I don't understand them. I don't respect people who think it's cool for trains to turn into robots. I just hate them. And then I was like, having said that, like if I had...
Such a weird thing to say.
Right. I was like, I don't respect people.
I think it's unnatural.
Yeah. And I was like, but I did say something about it. I was like, listen, I respect toys and I love collecting toys and I like consider myself what is it? In Seinfeld, when George Costanza says he wants to be a Civil War buff, how do you become a buff? I'm a toy buff.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if I had tons of money to blow, I would probably get some G1, maybe just like an Optimus Prime or something.
Why?
Yeah, your rationalization was if I had like so much money, I would eventually, as a collector of toys, add Transformers. I would like exclude them.
It's gonna happen one day, Craig. I think something's gonna happen. Now, I will say as well that I have maybe an irrational hate for Transformers, and I think it's because I just like cars and vehicles. Just have never been a huge interest to me.
Right.
So I never watched the cartoon as a kid. I didn't care about the toy. I didn't want that. And then the live action movies that I've seen, which is only like 2 of them, have been 2 of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. But I will not lie that there are times where I will be in Walmart and see the Transformers section and be like, some of these toys look good.
Right.
Like, I don't want them. I hate Transformers. but I can understand somebody who likes collecting Transformers toys because sometimes they just look very well done sometimes.
Listen, and I know I say listen a lot because people fucking tell me every day, but I'm going to say it right now. Listen, when we were at Toy Fair and Hasbro gave us awesome goodie bags full of free toys, I'm not going to say that the Marvel and Star Wars and Power Rangers and Ghostbusters stuff came home and the Transformers stuff didn't make it out of our hotel room.
For the room attendant saying, give this to your kids.
I love that you just assumed she has kids or that
find some kids.
But I think all of us collectively have the same opinion of Transformers. So I think we're safe for now.
It stinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Stinks.
Right. One Transformer, nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, also, just to get back to what I was talking about, if we're
She-Ra.
still going back to it, kind of like you were saying, I've always I've seen She-Ra dolls, especially the vintage line, like in toy stores, and I've had no interest in picking up any of those figures in the past because they look like miniature Barbie dolls, which I have never liked Barbie dolls. I did have an American Girl doll, but like dolls in general don't appeal to me. So I've seen She-Ra and I've been familiar with, and Ryan Dole has told me that She-Ra's cool in the past, but I never really went
wouldn't
down.
trust anything that guy says.
Yeah, you never know with Ryan, but I basically just kind of went down a hole with watching The Secret of the Sword, which is the 5-part She-Ra He-Man cartoon animated movie, which was like her debut, and then I've gone on and watched a lot of the old cartoon, and then went on to watch the new Netflix show, which is really incredible, and it's faithful to the original storyline and some of the original characters, but it has so much heart and emotion to it, and it's like such a coming of age tale for young people, female, male, whatever you are. Like, it's just good for people, and I absolutely love the show. I adore all the characters, and there are toys, but not that many, which is what's upsetting because, like I said, it's on Netflix. It's not like a major it's not like a Cartoon Network show or Nickelodeon where you're going to get a really good toy line. So the stuff that's come out is few and far between, and it gets picked up by the rabid fan like base, basically. Yeah. So what I purchased was a 2-pack of Bo and Adora in her Force Captain gear, and they're basically dolls, not action figures. Like, they have soft hair and cloth clothing, but they're awesome and they're going up in price. These have been like, there was a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive of a couple of them. Anyway, it was $100. I got both of them. And
these were Target exclusives a couple years ago, and they sold out, and they're not ever being made again, and they are going way up in value. And anybody,
for reference, one of the other figures, Catra, goes for like $800.
Yeah,
or so. It's ridiculous.
And the character of Bo looks a lot like John Yerkeba, like, shockingly.
He acts like John too.
I thought you were gonna say it was based off of Bo Bearden.
He's based off Bo Bearden and looks like John Hammond. It's very strange. Well, cool. Well, congratulations on those pickups.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, listen, guys, I want to get to this fuck budget because it was weird. Sometimes, it's been a weird year. There hasn't been a lot to talk about. It seems like there's more to talk about. So we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to get to the yes, have some fuck budget right now.
Go!
God. When are we starting our new metal podcast? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Metalheads, the Ghost Heads fandom metalhead
We're
show.
We're going to start it when Ryan Dole
Now,
wears a
if you
Craig
notice,
mask.
around 1998, Jonathan Davis took his dreadlocks out, and that he got his metal microphone stand that was built by H.R. Giger, which is a true fact.
Did you read the thing recently about Fred Durst saying that he's never been people in Limp Bizkit are not friends with each other, and they never have been. They just all came together as musicians, and he's like, yeah, we never hung out or really ever got along.
Yeah, I love it. I love that.
That makes sense. That's why the music is like, just the way it is. I love Limp Bizkit, so I'm not talking shit.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all do. Let's not act like they're not.
We all like all these bands that we're talking about.
Listen, there's this weird, you know what? Like, I know a lot of people really hate Limp Bizkit, but they sold more. Like, in the time that I was watching a video about them recently, because my coworker Ben brought it up to me that a lot of people hated on them, but they made more money and sold more records than like anybody around that time.
Yeah.
And they were the top, like they sold more than any of the other like new metal and like also something that a lot of people don't know is like all the like singles that they had back when like all the really stupid songs, the like break stuff and Nookie and all that shit. If you ever like listen to like a full Limp Bizkit album, it was always like two different bands,
Right?
because they always had like half of the album was really stupid songs like that, but then the other half, which were never singles, was like, oh, this is like real music, this is like a real song. And it always seemed like they couldn't make up their mind if they wanted to just be a joke, like a joke band, or if they wanted to make real music. It's super. They're
afraid of committing to being a serious
That
band.
is such a weird band. Limp Bizkit is so weird.
All right. Yes, have some.
I love them.
Yeah. Same.
All right, YHS Universe.
Yeah.
All right. Hold on. I came into this world as a reject. Look at these eyes.
On West Portland.
So stupid. I want to see a shirt that is the Yes Have Some crew dressed as Limp Bizkit on Optimus Prime rolling through the town.
Want to see that.
I do. I want to see it. Autobots roll.
If anybody draws that, I'm kicking you out of group therapy.
No, but we need an animated music video of us all riding Transformers to Limp Bizkit, because I like that.
Literally, I just said that.
That's what you said.
Greg
But then
said
I
that.
saw it in my head and tried to explain it to everyone again. I like that.
I was so obsessed with Fred Durst that I specifically went to the store. I bought a plain blue pocket tee, a yellow New York Yankees hat that I wore backwards, and baggy khakis. And I would stare in the mirror and be like, I think I look like Fred Durst.
You and me both.
He's from Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
And like every time I'm in Jacksonville, there's like a song, like a lot of the songs, they just talk at the beginning.
Right.
Every time I'm in Jacksonville and I drive over the Matthews Bridge, there's like a Limp Bizkit song where he's like, bring him to the Matthews Bridge. And it just like pops in my head anytime I'm in Jacksonville. John Otto.
I met a girl I worked with who said she worked at the Chili's in Florida where all the guys in Creed were the line cooks and they were all stupid idiots. And I loved that story.
I believe that.
I just like the idea of going back into a Chili's and be like, oh, look, there's Creed.
And
there's
somewhere in me, I'm also jealous of her. I'm like, no.
That's the past, but probably also the current.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
This Creed also currently works.
Oh, that's what I meant. That was 2 months ago. The Chili's.
I just want to say that I also, like you, Craig, I borrowed my brother's khaki cargo shorts and did like a dressing up like Fred Durst in my room thing with like a full on dance. And I wrote all the lyrics to Rollin' in my Algebra 1 book in high school freshman year.
Congrats to whoever got that book after you.
Yeah.
That's some...
It's more valuable information than algebra.
They're going to find that in like 300 years in a time capsule. Like, what was she trying to say?
Hey, ladies! Hey, fellas!
All right, we're getting to the fuck budget. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the rules. Let's get into it. 10 fucks each for Jake and Abby, and they have to allocate them wisely. First up, this broke group therapy and the internet today. The brand new advertisement from Mint Mobile, $30 a month. Ryan Reynolds, Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis finally returns to acting after all this time. And it was really great to see him. He's always been funny. But I know this generates a lot of conflicting feelings because he probably is not going to be in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but he is in the Mint Mobile commercial with Ryan Reynolds. Jake, how many fucks did you give about this ad?
I gave it one annoyed fuck.
Okay.
Sure, it is great to see him in any capacity. I love him. He's great. He looks very good. He is funny. He's been in retirement for, I don't know, 25 years
Long
or something,
time, yeah.
30 years. And he came out of retirement to do a commercial for a phone company that nobody has ever heard of.
I don't know what it is.
And that annoys me. It's like, if you say no, well, clearly, like, or obviously we don't know, like, why he's not in Ghostbusters Afterlife. I mean, I guess there's never been like concrete proof that he hasn't, but there's been a lot of like, a lot of people have said, these are the people who are back. His name has never been mentioned.
Right.
I don't think they would just keep that a secret. And we don't know that he was even asked to be in it. We don't know that.
Right, we don't know.
We would assume he was, but we don't know that. So we can't really put that on it. But it's like, it just seems, I don't know. It just kind of annoys me because it's like, I would love to see him come. I know he's going to come back and do the next Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which is great. And I'm happy about that. But I don't know. This just left me a little like, I was like, all right, cool, I guess.
Yeah. You go to their party, but you won't come to ours.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, now that I'm listening to you say that, I feel like I gave it too many fucks. Like I'm getting mad at retroactively, but I gave this 3 fucks.
Okay.
Because I was kind of, it was nice for me to see Rick Moranis, and I love Ryan Reynolds. So when I first watched it, I'd say I'd give this an A+. Extra credit points for making Rick Moranis look cool, because it's kind of hard to do that sometimes when you haven't seen somebody in so long.
Right. It can be jarring.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Reynolds is pretty charming. No, I don't know what Mint Mobile is, but I guess now we all will look it up.
Hey, guess what? The ad's working.
Yeah, it's working. And
because we're doing a 5-minute segment on Mint Mobile tonight.
Watching it, I think I probably was like, oh, well, this means, well, maybe he will be in Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like, I'm in complete denial is probably where I am right now. But it made me happy to see.
You know
Rick
what I
Moranis
hated?
come back.
I hate when companies do this. The Hollywood Reporter today posted their article from 2015 where they interviewed Rick Moranis, where he talked about why he didn't answer the call. And it just said, Rick Moranis opens up about why he's not doing new Ghostbusters reboot. And of course, everybody is talking about it like it's an article that came out today, but it's 5 years old. It feels like that doesn't feel right. They shouldn't do that. Anyways, I loved seeing Rick as well, but Jake, I'm right on board with you. It's bittersweet. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, next thing on the docket, it has been announced that in development is a brand new RoboCop prequel series focusing on villainous Omni VP Dick Jones, who we know gets his murder in RoboCop is one of the great scenes in film history.
That's the dude with the long arms out the window, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Does RoboCop need a prequel series? And if so, is this it?
Me?
Yeah.
I said 0 fucks. After reading this article, there's not going to be RoboCop as a character in this. I don't sure, that's a great kill and it's very memorable and that's awesome. But to me, that doesn't mean that it's a character whose backstory we need to go back into. So watching a RoboCop series with no RoboCop, where I'm watching Richard Jones turn into Dick Jones as he goes through the conflicts of money and power and all that that's not interesting. One of the things I read in this article was saying that they're using the show Gotham as a template.
There's your first problem.
Yeah, that's why I said no, because having a show about Gotham City without Batman being present and active as a character fighting crime is not interesting to me. Because then you're going to have to it's too much creative license and stuff that I just don't care about, honestly, going into that. I don't care about Dick Jones. I liked RoboCop. I thought the world of RoboCop was cool, but this doesn't sound like something I would spend any time watching.
Yeah, I've never watched RoboCop. It's I need more of that. I want to know how he got into that boardroom. I want 20 years of his backstory. Jake, how many fucks do you give to this?
Oh, it's 0.
Okay.
It just sounds it sounds really stupid. Everything Abby said, it sounds really stupid.
Yeah.
I've got a friend, my friend Billy, who I've been friends with for a long time, has a great story. He's got a lot of great stories from childhood, but one of them is begging his mom to rent RoboCop and her saying no repeatedly and finally just caving when he's 5 years old. And then they're watching that scene when this insane murder happens and the guy's getting shot up in the boardroom, and he's just screaming, crying at the TV as it's happening. It's so funny. It's so funny. It kind of reminds me of some of Jake's stories about begging to watch Child's Play or whatever. Yeah. You think you want it, but you think you're ready, but your body and mind is you are not emotionally prepared to see this man obliterated.
Disassociation.
By a machine gun. Okay, yeah, that sounds stupid. Hey, don't do it. That's the art. By the way, it probably won't even happen. This stuff rarely happens. And we will not be talking about The Walking Dead tonight because I don't care.
Why? I mean, not that I wanted to, but why was it a possibility?
Oh, you didn't hear?
No, what happened?
It's ending.
I thought that shit died off a long time ago.
Well, a lot of people. But they're continuing it. They're doing a spinoff. Norman Reedus is getting his own show.
All right.
But I'm excited to talk about the next thing.
Okay.
Josh Gad guest hosting the Tonight Show with Daisy Ridley. Oh boy. I feel like we could do a whole episode on this, but I'm sure everybody has heard. And John Boyega had some interesting comments about Star Wars this week. We're not going to talk about those right now. We'll focus on this one. Very different perspectives. We're all fans of The Force Awakens. We all have complicated feelings about everything that happened after that in the sequel trilogy. Daisy Ridley says that they had no plan. At one point, Rey was going to be nobody. At one point, she was going to be a Kenobi. At one point, she was going to be a Palpatine. We know she ended up being a Palpatine. And she freely speaks about all this because she is no longer under any contractual obligation or NDA. Boy, Jake, I don't even know where to start with this, but how many fucks do you give, and what are your thoughts on this mess, this disaster? What I called it in the text today.
We definitely could do like a whole episode.
We will eventually.
If we wanted to.
We will eventually.
But I gave this 0 fucks, man, because it is so annoying. It's so annoying to read any of it, and a lot of it we knew already. You know, it's like a lot of this isn't a secret. But it's more annoying when you're hearing it straight from, the main actress.
Right.
But it's just all, we've talked about it a million times, how stupid it is to bring something like Star Wars back and not have a story from the get-go. Like we've talked about, and this just boils down to that. And when I saw this article and read these things that she was saying, it made me so annoyed because I'm like, even when you see parts of the new Star Wars trilogy that are clearly like a lot of The Force Awakens, a couple things in, The Last Jedi and a couple things in Skywalker, there are things where you're like, well, they clearly took some care with this, or this scene was clearly like somebody, there's good stuff in all three of them, but it's like, how is there not one voice here coming up with a story? Why is it, oh, let's do this, now let's do this, and let's change? Like, that should not be the case.
Yeah.
And it makes it's annoying because Star Wars is important and it's such a big thing in so many's lives. And when you hear that that's how it was behind the scenes, it's like, that's disrespectful to Star Wars for them to have done that. So 0 fucks.
Okay.
Amen, sister. I also said 0 fucks to this, and I got annoyed reading this. Good for her. Good for Daisy Ridley for being able to speak openly about it. Map that shit out from the get-go. You need to have an outline going into things. Of course, they were planning on making Rey a Kenobi in the beginning. I feel like that was something that was kind of hinted at. It's very upsetting to hear that it was like undecided on set for The Force Awakens. I think it's shameful that her lineage wasn't outlined in the writers' room meetings. I have a quote that I'm going to read to you all from a book that I've been reading about mapping out and outlining your novel, and I think it applies to the situation. It says, stories for all their seeming simplicity are complicated. They're puzzles in which all the pieces have to fit just so. They're not random dreamscapes that tumble out of our brains fully formed. Rather, they're cohesive wholes in which the beginning and the end must be planned as a partnership. If we don't know how a story is going to end, we'll never know how to properly begin it. And I think that's very sage advice, and I really wish that the team behind these movies, this trilogy, had thought about things beforehand, because it is a huge mess to not know what you're doing going into it.
That's a great quote. I'm glad you read that.
Yeah, it's called Outlining Your Novel, and I'm going to tell everyone it's by K.M. Weiland. It's a great thing.
That's a great quote, and it's interesting because we all know, if you go back to the original Star Wars, that we know that George Lucas had to he planned out the first movie. I think it's pretty well documented that the changes, Luke and Leia being brother and sister, the reveal of Darth Vader being Luke's dad, like that stuff kind of came as he continued to develop the story, and that's fine, and it worked, and it's great. And I'm sure there was people back then going, I can't believe they did this. There's no way that, whatever. But it's Star Wars, and like Jake said, it's important, and we should treat these things like they are important, and we should have reverence for them. To think that J.J. Abrams plotted out that first movie and met with Kathleen Kennedy, and they had the one question you have to answer before starting these movies is, who is she? What is this ultimately building towards?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact, and it's pretty evident that it's more evident than ever than they didn't know. That's why The Last Jedi feels so subconscious. You know, sometimes when you talk about The Last Jedi, it can be hard to actually pinpoint what feels off about it. You just like, it's such a left turn for reasons we don't know. And it definitely feels like that thing where it's like, we're going to develop the first one, and then the second writer and creator is going to take ownership of the second one, and they're going to do their thing. And like, clearly that didn't work because nothing sat well with anybody. So to not know what Rey's journey ultimately was going to be, and what her and
not hand that guideline to Rian Johnson, and not have like, these are the stipulations of this is
when we all walked out of The Force Awakens, Jake, I'll never forget the first thing we get on the phone. It's, who is Rey? Who is she? How does she have these Jedi powers? What is her lineage? That is what the whole trilogy is about. And that's why, even though there's some really good stuff in Rise of Skywalker, the whole Palpatine angle, it still doesn't feel great. It feels off because it was like, I mean, fuck. It sounds from what Razy Diddley, what's her name? God damn it.
Daisy Ridley.
What Daisy Ridley was saying was that
no one knew.
Even going into episode 9, they were like, you're going to be a Palpatine. No, you're not going to be a Palpatine. Like, how did they not?
Who's steering the ship, and who knows where we're going and what coordinates we're trying to get to? Like,
Jake, how did this happen?
I don't know, dude. Whenever you watch Force Awakens, even when you go back and rewatch Force Awakens, it seems like J.J. Abrams had a clear vision of where it was going. And maybe in his own mind, maybe he did. But it's so sad to realize that nobody else did, or nobody shared that, and it just came down to like basically having to fix it. Because like, dude, there are scenes in like, there are things that happen in Force Awakens where it's like, I was 100% like, she's clearly related to the Skywalkers,
right?
Somehow, like it is. They all but say that in Force Awakens. There are, like she says like this lightsaber was, it was his, and then it called to Luke, and now it's calling to you. How much clearer can you say that this is, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There are like, it seemed like it was 100% thing. And it just, I don't know how it happened, man.
Right.
Like it just fell apart.
And Maz Katana says, that's another story for another time. And it's like, and you're never going to hear it because we don't have it. And the thing is, if we found out that Palpatine was the plan from the beginning, then they would have laid more. It's again, that's why the Palpatine thing feels so jarring, because there is no
wait. It's like a blip.
If you ended The Last Jedi with a teaser teasing Palpatine, that gives it the story some connection, but there's just, oh boy. And then I don't want to get into the John Boyega stuff, but I am on record, I have said it publicly and privately, they completely botched Finn. It could have been at the end of Force Awakens, we could have had two people on different Jedi paths. And what I'm going to go ahead and say it. And I've defended The Last Jedi in the past, and there's stuff in that movie I like, but fuck whatever Rian Johnson did with that movie, because it didn't work. It didn't work.
It sucks.
It didn't work. Sucks.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff I like. I like the throne room. I like Luke training Rey. I don't like Finn and Rose doing whatever they were doing.
That's all his stuff.
What is that?
I have no idea.
That's it. I'm moving on to the next.
Good, because this could go on.
Yes, please. We've diverged.
Let's move. Talked about David Blaine for way too long. Now let's move on to this too.
Okay. This Ghostbusters promo. We've all seen it before, but it, for some reason, recycled through all the news sites today. This was on the DVD that came out last year, the Blu-ray. This is Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd promoting Ghostbusters, trying to sell it to the theaters. It's a great clip. If you've never seen it, look it up. But I specifically want to talk about the song, because I don't think we ever did. There is a song in there that was going to originally be the theme song for the movie Ghostbusters. This is what they had until Ray Parker Jr. stepped up. So my question is, if that song was the song, how would that have affected Ghostbusters, and how many fucks do you give about that song? That's the question I'm asking. Abigail.
Okay. Well, I didn't read your question fully. What? No, but I did get I did it right. I answered it, and it actually the first thing. Well, I gave this 2 fucks first of all because it made me happy to see Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray riffing and swearing on screen together. That's just really fun content for me to watch. The first thing I wrote down though was, what is this organ theme song? This is before I knew that you were wanting to talk about it. I said
before she read the instructions.
Dude, that's how I operate. I will go forward and then go back and read the instructions. It sounds like the DuckTales theme song, kind of like the way it's kind of jumpy, going back and forth. I don't think it would have affected the success of Ghostbusters to have this song in instead of Ray Parker Jr.'s, but I'm glad that they didn't because it's not as good. It's not as remarkable and memorable.
Okay.
That's pretty much all I have down. But the song is what stood out most to me during this thing. I was like, what in the fuck is this?
Okay. That's why I'm asking about it. Jake, how many fucks do you give about this?
I gave it 1 fuck, and it is a great promo. That's not what I'm basing. I did not base my 1 fuck on that. I based my 1 fuck on how bad the song is. and my belief that if that were the song they stuck with, Ghostbusters would have bombed. It would have done awful. We would not be talking about it. We would not have a podcast. We probably would not know each other. That song is a piece of garbage.
Effect.
And it could have single-handedly destroyed life as we know it.
I like that. At a minimum, I don't think Ghostbusters would have had the pop culture injection. You would not have had the Ray Parker Jr.
It's such a generic sounding.
Right.
It sounds like he turned a keyboard on and pressed one of the preset.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
There's all these Coke commercials on YouTube like, I ain't afraid no thirst. We wouldn't have gotten any of that. Yeah, that song's not great, but it's always fun to go back into the archives and think about what would have happened.
Right.
And there's not many movies.
Disaster would have happened.
There's not many movies besides Ghostbusters that are so closely related to the theme song.
Yeah, it catapulted it up, keeping it on the charts, keeping it every year around Halloween, having that song play. Like, it just keeps it alive.
I love that.
It's true.
All right, let's do it. We buried the lead. We have not talked about Bill and Ted Face the Music yet. I put it in a fuck budget. Let's face it, folks. 2020 is a weird year. This was not the way we wanted to watch this movie. We wanted to see it with, tons of Bill and Ted fans in theaters, but it didn't happen. So we watched it at home, and I want to talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music right now. So, Jake, when it comes to Bill and Ted Face the Music, the third movie, well, first of all, have you just watched it the one time?
Yeah.
Watched it once? Okay, I think we watched it twice. All right. How many? People have been asking. There's been a couple people. Oh, I can't wait to hear what they think.
Can't wait to hear what Jake thinks.
But yeah, let's face it. That's what they said. I can't wait to hear what Jake thinks. Nobody has ever cared about my opinion.
Wanted to know what I think.
Jake, how many fucks?
I gave it 2 fucks.
Okay, there we go.
I almost gave it more. I think maybe I would have given it more if we would have done this the day after we watched it.
Okay.
It's not a movie that is lingered in my brain in any sort of positive way.
Okay.
I did not think it was awful, but I did not think it was very funny. There were very, very few things that I laughed at. A lot of it just does not feel like Bill and Ted to me. Just a good chunk of it. There is a good chunk that does. There are a few things where I'm like, there are a few specific things where I was like, what? Like that felt good. This feels good. This feels good. But to me, it's easily ranked third in the trilogy to me. And most of the best stuff happens in the last 20 minutes when death shows up. And it just hasn't been a movie that I've thought about really. And when I said thought about in a positive way, it doesn't mean I'm thinking negatively of it, but it's just as it stuck with me at all. No part of me has been like, man, I need to watch Bill and Ted 3 again.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just had no kind of lasting anything with me. It's just it was there and it's gone.
Before we move on to Abby, in my opinion, you said that there was some stuff in there that you thought felt pretty good. Can you cite anything specifically? I mean, I know it's been a couple of weeks.
I liked, so I wasn't a big fan of the daughters just in general, but their plot line I liked, and I almost felt like Bill and Ted should have been the ones going back in time and putting this band together,
Right.
and not doing what they were doing, because I think that the plot line that Bill and Ted were participating in does not make sense in the reality of their own movie. It doesn't make sense that it's happening. But I really liked, like the scene where Beethoven is playing with, or Mozart is playing Beethoven.
Right.
Mozart is playing
Jimi Hendrix.
That like duel with Jimi Hendrix. I was like, this entire movie should be like this.
Yeah.
I was when that scene happened, I was like, hey, you know what? If they would have just took that like 2-minute scene and made that the trailer, I would have shit my pants if I saw that. I would have been like, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
That kind of stuff I liked. I liked death. That's about it. There was I thought Bill and Ted did fine, like, trying to be those characters again. That wasn't my issue. It was just like there was a lot of weird writing, and it did not seem like it was written by the same people who did the first two. And I don't know, man. It just it didn't hold on to I guess the magic for me.
Fair enough.
Got it.
Abigail, how many fucks?
Well, I gave this 5 fucks. I've been saving my fucks up actually throughout this fuck budget, because I thought that Bill and Ted Face the Music was a breath of fresh and positive air in this dismal climate that we're in right now. I'm kind of bummed that we didn't get to see it in the movie theater, but I thought that the thing that was kind of nice about having it at home release was we were able to watch it immediately the next day, and we weren't even like dying to put it back on, but it ended up that we put it on and it continued to make us laugh, and by the end of the movie we were crying again like we did the first time. Which
cry.
That's a good thing. I made a pros and cons list for this movie because I think it definitely has like some good heart and some good moments where it's like, oh, everything's fitting back into place.
But you still got to look at things with a critical eye.
Exactly. I said my first pro was I thought that both the girls, Samara and Bridget, are adorable and magnetic as B&T on screen. I thought that Dennis Caleb McCoy was the funniest part of the movie.
I thought him and Death were great. I think that William Sadler, that's his name, right? William Sadler. He owns that character. I could watch
that.
I could watch
him
that
and Dennis together as
they were great.
Yeah, they're funny.
The scene where Bill and Ted go to Death's house. By the way, Jake, have you seen that? There's a special feature floating around of they did like a cribs for Death.
Yeah.
I did not see that.
And he's like,
my number 3 pro is Death's flat in hell. What's my favorite?
Death when they.
But why does Death live in hell in this movie? He doesn't live in hell in the first movie. How come in this movie when everybody dies they automatically go to hell?
Right.
Bill and Ted go to hell when they die. They go to Death's like plane of existence,
right? And
they have to play him. They only go to hell when they try to escape. In this movie, everybody gets killed and immediately goes to hell. And I'm like, is that the thing?
Is that
you just go straight to hell? I don't get it.
Or is that because Dennis Caleb McCoy was sending them there?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe he was he killing them, or is that where they
all
end
I know
up?
is when
I didn't think about it that far.
The line where they go, when Alex Winter goes, you were playing 45-minute bass solos that nobody else could play, and he goes, I was in the groove. Made me laugh very hard.
Yeah, everything with him was funny. I thought Alex Winter was also very funny.
Yep.
Kind of recaptured this character. I thought Kristen Schaal channeled Rufus's energy pretty well. Everything that happens in the movie after they're in hell is going upward. Like, it's great moving forward. The first half has some rough spots, I'd say.
I think there's a re-edit of this movie that's a little bit tighter. And we talked about it. They did not have the chance to do reshoots. They wanted to do more budget.
Low budget and COVID, I think, affected some of the quality and the pacing of the film. I think that they could have extended some stuff or cut some things shorter. Like when Bill and Ted are going into Dave Grohl's house, there's some funny stuff there, but there's also a couple things that go on very long.
Right, it drags a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they probably could have diverted from this. And I kind of agree with you, Jake, about the Bill and Ted's their storyline with the wives and time traveling. I didn't like it quite as much as their daughters going back and pulling the musicians through time. I would have also, speaking of which, liked to have seen the daughters working harder and struggling more to get the musicians back together. Like what that scene you mentioned with Mozart, more of that.
That was, and I agree completely on that. What's so fun about the beginning of Bill and Ted is when they go into to the war scene, and they're in the middle of a war. They say, "We're in a war, dude," and they see Napoleon. Then they go back to the Old West, and they have to acclimate themselves to the Old West.
But it's because they have like multiple plot lines in this movie, and they just did not have the time to do that kind of stuff.
Right.
I didn't like any of Bill and Ted's interactions with other versions of Bill and Ted.
Okay.
I didn't like any of it. I know I read that there was a scene written where they go back to the Circle K and they talk to like their younger selves. And I know that they couldn't do that because of a budget thing, but that to me is such a waste to not have that happen in like a Walmart commercial did that.
Right.
And it was amazing. It was amazing to see Bill and young Bill in a Walmart. And I'm like, a Walmart commercial can do it.
Right.
We can't do it in a movie. That's stupid. Something I pointed out before that, Craig, I think you got annoyed about, but something that I cannot get over is they go to the future and they get told, hey, you have until 7:15 or whatever. They're like, you have until 7:15 tonight to do the song. And they're like, okay, well, what happens after 7:15? And they're like, there will be no 7:15.
Guys, I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Abby wanted to watch the Mint Mobile commercial again.
I accidentally clicked. I'm sorry.
Keep going, Jake.
They explicitly get told if the song's not done, that's it for the world. There will be no time past 7:15 if you do not write the song.
Right.
So then they immediately say, well, let's go forward 2 years and get the song.
Right.
And that makes sense up until the point where they go 2 years in, and Bill and Ted 2 years later are like, we don't have it, and they're dead. Well, why? That if there's a future, if they're allowed to go 2 years ahead, then that means the song got written, right? Immediately, if they go into the future from that point, that means the song got written. So why would Bill and Ted in 2 years be jerks about it? They wouldn't, because the song would have been done.
Right.
It doesn't make any, and that's what the whole plot's based on. So I'm like, none of this makes any sense.
So I think, I agree with what you're saying. There's definitely
it's almost like them leaving themselves the keys or doing something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for. Like the stuff from the first movie, like we'll just go later, leave ourselves, like you just said, like we'll leave the keys here. Like I think that it is convoluted and complicated. I'm willing to forgive it because it's whatever. I don't want to just be like, well, it's just a Bill and Ted movie, but it is.
I felt it. It didn't piss me off or irk me too much to take me out of it, but I felt a little bit of that, like, okay, I'm following along, but it also feels.
It's a little, and I do agree. The last 20 minutes of the movie are that's when it's like kicks into high gear. You've got death. It's Dennis Caleb McCoy's doing his thing. He's hilarious, and he's like a new weird character. I did miss Station. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. But I think we'll continue to talk about this movie because I will say, Jake, that on a rewatch, once you kind of let down, like, it's so weird revisiting these characters. I did not get the Dumb and Dumber thing. Like, Dumb and Dumber 2 is literally awful. I didn't get the Dumb and Dumber thing either, which is great. Which is good. That's not... This movie's heart is in the right place.
It's just, there's other things that fell flat for me. It's not...
Right.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Let's talk about Keanu Reeves real quick, because there's moments in this movie that I feel he really did recapture Ted, specifically when he calls his older self from 2 years a dick. When he goes, "You're a dick, Ted." I was like, oh, that's exactly what Ted would say right now. But Jake, Alex Winter did such a good job recapturing that energy. I don't think Keanu Reeves is bad in this movie. I think he does as good as he can, but I just don't think, Ted is a pretty hyper character at times, and he's a little bit over the top and boisterous, and Keanu Reeves is really...
He was a kid when he did that.
Exactly. He's like melancholy almost now. I don't think it was that easy for him to try to get into that character.
I agree. Yeah, there just like you said, there are times where you could see it and you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty good, but most of the time Bill is so good and Death is so good that it's weird when you're watching the three of them, like when the three of them are in Death's like little apartment.
Yeah.
Bill and Death literally feel like they're both doing such a good job that they feel like they just came out of Bogus Journey.
Right.
But then you have Ted, who's like a little off, and
Right.
it just makes the whole thing a little stiff.
You know what dawned on me, and this just dawned on me a couple days ago. I haven't said it to you. I'd have to go back and watch it, but like, because we rewatched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure recently. Ted smiles a lot. He's always smiling. He's like always kind of just has this look of like
cheesy.
Yeah. And
Like a dumb kid.
Yeah. And I know part of the storyline is that like Ted's a little bit more run down and trying to give up, but he doesn't smile, I think, like once in this movie. And
you're right.
It bummed me out, but overall I did like it. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10 or a 5.5 out of 10. It's got a lot of stuff in there I like. It's got some stuff that I think could have maybe been better. I think the one thing that worked against them is I know they developed the plot of this movie like 10 years ago. I think it probably needed a fresh set of like.
It's also, this would be the last thing that I'll say about the plot of the movie, but the whole wrap up when they do the song at the very end.
Yeah.
It's super convoluted and it happens very quickly.
Right.
And they're like, in 2 seconds, they're like, oh, we'll hit the infinite number and there'll be 1 million of us and we'll give an instrument to everybody in the world. And it happens in like 20 seconds.
Right.
And then the song they actually do doesn't really look or feel or seem very important. It's not a very like what I was just saying about that Ghostbuster song. It sounds very generic and it's not. And I'm like, oh, okay. It just doesn't. That like little climax doesn't have a very good emotional payoff to me. And as quick as all that shit happens, they literally are like, and that was it. We saved the day.
Right.
Roll credits. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's abrupt.
It elicits some good feelings. At least it did for me, but it leaves me scratching my head a little bit while watching it to follow. I was confused.
It's a little confusing
by that, like the RPMs, I think, or like whatever the certain number they were supposed to hit. And then going back and giving.
I have a feel they talk about.
But I like seeing them all in. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I like seeing them all in the phone booth together, Bill, Ted, and their wives. That moment was worth all like some of those strange.
I literally.
Plot points.
Congrats to the movie. It's doing very well. It's the #1 movie in the month of August for video on demand, and the reviews were really great. I think that it was a really positive. Its heart's in the right place. Didn't always stick the landing, but listen, we've talked about it so much. The hardest thing for these franchises to do are to come back after all this time and have these people jump into these characters. And listen, we don't know what's going to happen with Afterlife. We could be having a very similar discussion in 4 or 5 months where we say, or 6 months, or whatever it is, and we go, ooh, I think it was really hard for Bill Murray.
Stop.
Well, I'm just saying it could. All right, we'll end there. Listen, I do think Bill and Ted, I do like how much heart it had. And I think the thing with the song is, it's like they say it's like 160 beats per minute in C sharp. I think there's some scientific study that says like that is the structure that releases the most,
Well, they're saying that because everybody has to play it.
Right, exactly.
Everybody has to know. Everybody in the world has played it at the same time, so they're telling everybody the key and the rhythm.
Right. And I've gone back and listened to the soundtrack. There's some really good stuff in there, but we didn't really talk about it a lot. Anthony Kerrigan, I think is his name. I want to get the actor's name right. The guy who played Dennis McCoy. What I liked about him so much was that in the way that Death does that shift in the second movie, I thought it was a really cool way to have, like, here's a new character that you weren't expecting to see. And he's got some really funny lines. My 2 favorite lines are when they first get to hell and Bill goes, "What are we going to do, dude?" Or they both go, "What are we going to do, dude?" And he just pops up and goes, "Yeah, what are we going to do, dudes?" Just immediately. I thought that was really funny. And then he's got the line where he says the Death. I like the part where he said, "Let's rock," because it made me want to rock. I was like, oh, okay, this is funny. I'm having a good time. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Have some. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yes.
I like to have fun.
Yeah, I like to rock.
Anything
Fun
else?
is fun.
Anything else before we wrap up, Abigail?
No, that that's just about
Gardner?
it. I agree with Jake. I think that the song at the end of that movie could have been more meaningful. Either pick something we recognize.
Well, I think it's because we're used to God Gave Rock and Roll to You, which is like objectively not a great song, but
It's not. Yeah.
but it's also amazing somehow at the second time.
Yeah.
That was so nice of God to give the rock and roll to us.
Right.
Put it in our soul.
Jake, anything else before we wrap up?
Why does the Dennis the robot have a really scary robot voice for the first half of the movie, but then just all of a sudden drops it for no reason?
I think that's funny. That's what made me laugh about it.
It is funny, but I don't. But does funny equal doing something for no reason at all?
No, I think that was what the character was supposed to be. I think it was he's a menacing robot, but then
he was supposed to be sounding scary, and then he was just like.
Then he has an existential crisis.
I see. That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to do the same thing that they do with Death in the first movie. The thing with Death though is that he shows up and he's menacing, and then they fucking pull his pants up his ass like immediately.
Right.
But Jake, you had mentioned that they did give away one of the funniest gags in the movie in the trailer, which you never watched, which is Death.
I didn't watch the trailer, and I'm glad, because the thing that one of the dumb little throwaway jokes that I thought was one of the funniest things in the movie was that Death was playing like hopscotch by himself and cheating. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's funny. And then I watched the trailer after, and I was like, oh, they put that in the trailer.
The second trailer is not very good. Oh, we never talked about it. It's really, I was maybe that's why I ended up liking it more than I thought, because after the second trailer, I was like, ooh, this is not going to be great. Last thing, the gag of having Deacon get married to Missy is funny.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
That was funny.
I thought that was.
Yeah. Seeing them together was very fun.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining Yes Have Some this week. We appreciate it. Make sure that you're subscribing on whatever podcast application that you use. Stay tuned for more from the Yes Have Some, what do we call this? The universe? Cast of stars. And we'll be back next week with more content, more toy talk. And hey, got to count down to that trailer. We got to get a Ghostbusters trailer at some point.
Yeah.
You
can bring the trailer song back.
I can bring the trailer song back. We will have special guests on to talk about the trailer, and we'll have some fun coming up. So thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Later.
Bye.